The woman who sued Nicki Minaj and her husband, Kenneth Petty, over Petty attempting to rape her in 1994, amended her complaint today to include evidence from original case. What does this mean?
Boys, be boys.
Amen.
Be boys. It's okay.
What up, y'all? It's your boy, old man, aka Oda Dread, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're doing more than covering a downfall. We're witnessing a self-imposed slow-motion car crash of a legacy that was once untouchable. We're dissecting the career of a woman who clawed her way out of the trenches of South Jamaica, Queens to become the undisputed, self-proclaimed queen of rap, only to set her own throne on fire in some of the most embarrassing, hypocritical, and downright nasty ways imaginable. We're talking about Onika Tanya Maraj-Petty, the woman who built the Barbie dream house only to reveal that the foundation was poured on a graveyard of credibility, respect, and basic human decency. For a long time, the world was captivated by the sheer force that is Nicki Minaj. She is a commercial juggernaut, a cultural architect who arguably birthed an entire generation of female rappers, and a woman whose pen game put the fear of God into men twice her size. But today, in the year of 50 Cent's internet 2026, she stands as the self-appointed defender of predators, a political grifter rubbing elbows with the alt-right, and a woman seemingly at war with the very existence of accountability. We gotta stop asking what happened to Nicki Minaj. That's lazy. That's easy. The real question, the question that should be keeping you up at night if you were ever a fan, is this: was the Barbie everyone fell in love with just a hollow plastic shell, hiding a much darker, shattered reality the whole time? Did the fame break her, or was Miss Onika Maraj already broken before the world ever knew her name? We're gonna wade through the shallow depths of this tragedy today. We're gonna look at the glory, the grime, and the absolute garbage behavior that has turned this global icon into a cautionary tale. Lock in, because the math ain't mathin' and the vibes ain't vibing. Before we get to the wreckage, and trust me, the wreckage is catastrophic, we have to respect the machine that was built. We have to understand what's been lost to understand why it's such a shame to see it all flush itself down the toilet. Onika Tanya Maraj, better known as Nicki Minaj, was born December 8th, 1982 in St. James, Trinidad and Tobago, and raised in the grit of Queens, New York. Don't get it twisted, she didn't ask for a seat at the table. She flipped the table over and demanded somebody fix her a plate. In the age of industry plants, she was a grinder. We're talking about a girl with a turbulent childhood, a father struggling with a severe addiction who once burned down the family house.
This house was the house that my father burned down. Me and my brother, we were at a neighbor's house spending the night that night. They came and said, your house is burning down. I just remember running, racing down, and I remember when I got here, I just saw a big commotion, and I was so scared I didn't know what happened, but everybody was running over here, and I just looked. My house was gone.
That kind of trauma either breaks you or turns you into steel. For Onika, it forged a hunger that was absolutely terrifying. She attended LaGuardia High School, the famed school, studying drama. And keep that in mind, because the drama training is the key to unlocking the puzzle of her psychosis later on. But before the fame, she was just Onika from Queens, getting fired from seemingly every job she touched. The most famous story? The Red Lobster in the Bronx. She didn't get fired for being late. She got fired because she chased a customer who stole her pen into the parking lot, banged on their car window, and flipped them the bird. That type of energy. That is the nasty flow. That caught the ear of Fendi on MySpace. That is the spark that got her stamped by Lil Wayne. Between 2007 and 2009, she went on a mixtape run that is frankly legendary. Playtime is Over, Sucker Free, Beam Me Up Scotty. She established a duality that we hadn't really seen before. She introduced the Barbie persona, a brilliant, subversive mix of hyper-feminine, pink-wigged aesthetics mixed with the lyrical aggression that would decapitate your favorite rapper. She looked like a toy, but she rapped like a hitman. And then came Pink Friday in 2010. It shattered records and rewrote the rulebook. It had the largest sales week for a female rap album in the 21st century. Super bass was everywhere. You couldn't go to a grocery store, a club, or even a funeral for that matter, without hearing that bubblegum pop anthem. She was on American Idol, she was performing with Madonna at the Super Bowl, but as she ascended, she didn't just want to be the queen of rap. She wanted to be the queen of pop too. And this is where the cracks first started to show. When she dropped Pink Friday, Roman Reloaded in 2012, she pivoted to dance pop with Starships. The money was long, but the respect, the respect started to wobble. Hip-hop purists accused her of selling out. Peter Rosenberg at Hot 97 called Starships not real hip-hop.
Now hold on, before I get to the real hip-hop shit of the day, because I see the real hip-hop heads sprinkled in here, I see them. I know there's some chicks here waiting to sing Starships later. I'm not talking to y'all right now. Fuck that bullshit. I'm here to talk about real hip-hop shit.
And what did Nicki do? She canceled her Summer Jam performance. She pulled the plug. This was an early sign. A sign that despite the Barbie armor, the skin underneath was paper thin. She couldn't handle criticism. She viewed critique as treason. But the brand remained pristine. She cultivated an ally persona that felt genuine at the time. She was paying off student loans for her fans on Twitter, straight A's, tuition paid, no questions asked. She was even funding water wells and computer centers in India. In 2019, she made a massive statement by canceling her headlining show in Saudi Arabia. She released a statement saying explicitly, "I believe it is important for me to make clear my support for the rights of women, the LGBTQ community, and freedom of expression." She stood on business. She chose her morals over the bag. She was a hero to the marginalized, a titan to the industry, and a queen to her barbs. She had the world in the palm of her manicured hand. But even then, if you looked close enough, if you squinted past the platinum plaques and the neon aesthetic, the cracks in the porcelain were getting wider. And this is where the trauma thread starts to unspool. We ignored the warning signs with Lil' Kim. Kim paved the road Nicki drove on, but instead of paying homage, Nicki tried to run her off the road. At the time, we called it competition, but looking back, it looks a lot more like a psychological inability to share the spotlight. It looks like a daughter trying to kill the mother so she can be the only woman in the house. We ignored the Cardi B situation. New York Fashion Week 2018. This was more than rap beef. This was a shoe being thrown at her head. This was the queen of rap rolling around in the dirt because she felt threatened by the new girl on the block. See, a confident queen doesn't need to be throwing hands at a fashion show. A scared child does. That should have been the moment we realized the crown is heavy and her neck was getting tired. And then came the Queen album rollout in 2018. This is where the insecurity went from a whisper to a scream. When Travis Scott's Astroworld blocked her from #1, she didn't just take the L, she spiraled. She went on Queen Radio and accused Travis of using his baby Stormy to sell records. She accused Spotify of sabotaging her. She lashed out at everyone and everything. This was far from the behavior of a queen. This was the behavior of a tyrant, terrified of losing power. But the music eventually took a backseat to the mess completely. The mask slipped, and what was underneath wasn't a queen. It was something ugly. Fast forward to the 2020s and the Barbie dream house has turned into a house of horrors. The downfall of Nicki Minaj didn't happen because her pen got weak. It happened because her integrity disintegrated. Let's talk about the company she keeps. For a woman who built a billion-dollar brand on the concept of female empowerment, Mrs. Petty has a sickening, vomit-inducing habit of protecting the worst kinds of men. First, there's the brother, Jelani Maraj. In 2017, he was convicted of predatory SA against a child, his own 11-year-old stepdaughter. The details of the case are vile. But what did the Queen of Rap do? Did she denounce him? Did she stand with the victim? No. Reports indicate she stood 10 toes down for a monster. She reportedly funded his legal defense. She visited him in jail. She chose blood over morality. She chose to use her resources to try to keep a predator on the streets. She likes to rap about being the bad guy. She likes to call herself Chun-Li. But there's a difference between a comic book villain and a real-life accomplice. Let's talk about the husband, Kenneth Petty. This is a man who was convicted of attempted rape in 1995, a registered SO, a man with a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt. This is who the queen chose to marry. This is who she calls her king. Now, I know what some of y'all are thinking. Oh man, she's just loyal. She's a ride or die. Stop. I need you to stay with me right here because I'm about to prove to you that this isn't loyalty. This is fear. This isn't a woman standing by her man. This is a trauma victim reenacting her childhood by seeking out the most dangerous man in the room because she thinks that's what safety looks like. Watch what happens next and tell me if this looks like loyalty or intimidation. When Kenneth's victim Jennifer Hughes spoke out in 2021 regarding a lawsuit against the couple, the details were chilling. The lawsuit alleged a campaign of harassment, intimidation, and bribery orchestrated by Nicki and Kenneth to silence her, to force her to recant her story. Imagine that, the woman who stood up for women's rights in Saudi Arabia allegedly using her power, her money, and her influence to silence a survivor of SA because it was inconvenient for her husband's reputation. And it gets weirder. Remember the cousin's friend tweet? In 2021, while the world was battling a pandemic, Nicki decided to tweet that her cousin's friend in Trinidad became impotent and his testicles became swollen after getting the vaccine. It sounded like a joke, a bad joke, but it wasn't. It was the gateway drug. It was the moment she realized that conspiracy theories and anti-establishment rhetoric got her a specific kind of attention from the right wing, attention from people like Tucker Carlson. She dipped her toe in the pool of the intellectual dark web, and she liked the temperature. Then came the absolute hypocrisy of her feud with Megan Thee Stallion. When Megan released Hist and referenced Megan's Law, a law literally designed to protect communities from registered offenders, Nicki spiraled. She took it as a diss towards her husband, which, hey, if the shoe fits, lace that bitch up. But instead of taking the L, she went on a multi-day social media crash out. She released Bigfoot, a track so bad, so petty, and so devoid of artistic merit that it sounded like a frantic voice note recorded in a bathroom at 3 a.m. She mocked Megan's shooting. She mocked her trauma. And if you thought Megan's situation was a one-off, think again. Remember that knot on Cardi B's head from 2018? Well, in late 2025, that beef thawed out and went nuclear. Cardi B drops her album, Am I the Drama, and Nicki decides to turn Twitter into a crime scene over a $4.99 iTunes price tag. She couldn't just let the girl drop music. She had to initiate a crash out so embarrassing it made the shoe incident look classy. We're not just throwing shoes anymore. We're throwing allegations about crack, PDF files, and attacking toddlers. You had Nicki calling a 7-year-old child a roach and ugly. You had Cardi clapping back and calling Nicki's son Papa Perk and claiming he's slow. This ain't competition. This ain't hip-hop. This is a 42-year-old woman calling herself the queen while engaging in a digital race to the bottom with a woman she swore she didn't care about. She dragged children into it. She dragged medical records into it. It's given miserable. It's given obsessed. She showed the world that there's no low she won't stoop to if her ego is bruised. Now you would think it stops there. Like, okay, she stands by her toxic family, she fights on the internet, that's bad, but maybe she still cares about her fans. Wrong. The queen decided that the LGBTQ community, the very people who carried her career on their backs, the people who stand for her, the people who fought for her, the people who bought the wigs and the tickets, were expendable. The same woman who canceled a concert for human rights in 2019 is now rubbing elbows with the alt-right at Turning Point USA. In December of 2025, Nicki Minaj pops up at AmericaFest in Phoenix, Arizona, a surprise guest. She walks out hand in hand with Erika Kirk, the CEO of TPUSA. The crowd goes wild, sparklers, super bass playing. It's a spectacle. And then she opens her mouth. She sits there, dressed in a modest purple turtleneck like she's attending a PTA meeting, and starts praising Donald Trump as dashing and handsome. She calls him a role model for men. She calls Vice President JD Vance the assassin.
Like our handsome, dashing president. And you have amazing role models like the assassin JD Vance, our vice president. And when I say that,
Now let's pause on that assassin comment for a second, because you can't write comedy this dark. She calls JD Vance the assassin as a compliment in front of Erika Kirk, whose husband is Charlie Kirk, the founder of the organization and had recently been assassinated. The room went silent. You could hear Nicki's career gasping for air. It was a level of tone deafness that requires a PhD in narcissism to achieve. She didn't even realize why it was awkward until Erika Kirk had to gracefully bail her out. She was clueless until Erika Kirk had to save her from drowning in her own stupidity. She followed up that disaster with the line, "Boys will be boys, nothing wrong with that."
Say what you want to say because I know your heart. I do not judge that.
Sister. Thank you. For boys, be boys.
Amen.
Be boys. It's okay. Be boys. There's nothing wrong with being a boy.
Amen.
How about that?
Amen.
How powerful is that? How profound is that?
Amen.
Boys will be boys. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well,
Yeah, that's what I want to say.
A clear, undeniable dog whistle to the anti-trans anti-gender affirming care crowd that she was pandering to. The same barbs who are trans, who are queer, who looked up to her, she threw them under the bus for a round of applause from a room full of people who probably think rap music is a sin. And the backlash was instant. A petition garnered hundreds of thousands of signatures calling for her immediate deportation. Now time out. Let's be real. Nicki has a green card, so she likely isn't going anywhere easily. But the irony? It burns hotter than the house her father set on fire. She's standing on the stage cheesing with the very people, Trump and Vance, who are actively pushing to denaturalize citizens and end birthright citizenship. She's actively rooting for the team that wants to strip rights away from immigrants just like her. She's an immigrant cheering for the deportation force. Make it make sense. She traded her integrity for proximity to power, not realizing that the power she's cozying up to would likely show her the door the second she stops being useful. She tweeted at her LGBTQ fans who were upset saying, "Imagine hearing that Christians are being murdered and making it about you being gay." That is the gaslight of the century. She took their valid hurt, their valid betrayal, and twisted it to make herself the victim and the righteous crusader. It's manipulative, it's vile, and it's the final nail in the coffin for her credibility. So here we are, the end of the line, the ashes of the kingdom. We have to ask ourselves why. Why does a woman with everything, talent, money, legacy, adoration, burn down her own house with herself inside of it? To understand the downfall of Nicki Minaj, you have to stop looking at her as a musician and start looking at her as a psychological case study in fractured identity. We need to talk about the personas. For her entire career, we applauded her schizophrenia on wax. We loved Cookie. We loved Harajuku Barbie. We loved Roman Zelensky. We thought it was theatrical genius. But looking back now, with the clarity of hindsight, those weren't just artistic choices. Those were shields. They were disassociated fragments of a woman who never felt safe being just Onika. Think about it. Onika Maraj grew up in a house of terror, violence, drug addiction, arson. She learned very early on that the world is a dangerous place and men are the danger. So what did she do? She created Roman, a male alter ego, an aggressive British diabolical twin who could say the things she was too scared to say. Roman wasn't just a character. Roman was her protector. Roman allowed her to be the bully instead of the victim. She created Barbie, plastic, perfect, untouchable, a doll that can be taken out of the box and admired, but never truly hurt because she has no internal organs to bruise. Barbie was the armor she wore to navigate an industry that wanted to chew her up and spit her out. The tragedy is that somewhere along the way, Onika Maraj disappeared. She spent so much time wearing the masks that the masks became the face. This explains the husband. This explains the brother. Why does she defend the indefensible? Why does she align herself with predators? Because in the warped, trauma-filled logic of her subconscious, she confuses loyalty with complicity. She thinks standing by a bad man makes her strong. She thinks it makes her ride or die. But it's actually trauma reenactment. She respects the monster because she understands the monster. She feels safer standing next to the wolf than she does standing with the sheep because at least the wolf has teeth. She aligns with power, whether that power is a convicted felon who intimidates witnesses or a political strongman like Trump. She gravitates towards brute force because deep down, she's still that little girl in Queens, watching her house burn down, terrified of being powerless. She demands a cult-like worship from the Barbs because no amount of Grammy nominations or platinum plaques can fill the void where her self-esteem should be. She needs an army because she feels constantly under siege. And when the adulation from the pop world started to fade, when the charts started to look a little different, she pivoted to the ultimate drug for the insecure narcissist: political polarization. She traded her legacy for attention. She traded her allyship for a sense of belonging in a group that values alpha dominance, even if that dominance is built on hate. Nicki Minaj is not a queen sitting on a throne anymore. She's a broken Barbie in a fortress of her own making. She's surrounded by yes men, enablers, and predators, screaming at a world that is slowly, but surely, reaching for the remote to turn the volume down. She's the architect of her own isolation, and the saddest part, she probably thinks she's winning. That's the video. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the psychology of a crash out, do me a solid and smash that like button. It helps the channel more than you know. Let me know in the comments, you think Nicki can recover from this, or is the reign officially over? I read every comment, even the ones from the Barbs who are about to dox me. I'm trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, so if y'all rock with the vision, hit subscribe. But even if not, no matter what, until next time, be the person you'd like to meet. Peace.
Oh man, I'm about to pop out.
man, you know I brought the drop out.